Hello, everybody. Good morning. This is not Mother 3.
Mother 3.
Huber's here. Ian's here. Yeah, Cyberpunk is putting up 15 minutes of the latest gameplay from Cyberpunk 2077. We saw it at E3. There was like 45-ish, 50-ish minute demo. They showed it at Gamescom as well. Hard to say like what differences there will be, how much they're going to cut down. Like one of the big things that they showed us at E3 was just like player choice.
Yeah.
You know, they showed us, all right, here's the aggressive path, here's the stealth path.
In detail, like a 20-minute thing this way, and then like, okay, let's go back, let's go like 20 minutes this way.
Yeah, swap in between builds.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know if, you know, some of the talk that they've had lately about like the new character creation has made it in to this, or it's probably still that same old E3 build that they're just like polishing.
Totally.
So.
So yeah, we've definitely, every ally pretty much will most likely have talked about the footage we are about to see. If it is that E3 Gamescom footage.
Yeah, the only people that didn't get to see it, I think, were Dawn and Kyle.
So, but that's cool because we're here with you, chat. We get to talk about it together. We get to share this moment. You get to see Cyberpunk 2077 in 43 seconds.
They're gonna have devs talking right after too, so.
The audio's off? With ourselves?
Uh-oh.
We tested it.
We tested it for the last... Oh no.
Audio is slightly ahead.
Our audio is ahead of our video? Damn! Okay, hang on.
23 seconds.
20 seconds!
To fix it.
Oh man. You gotta keep talking to see it.
Keep talking. No one listens.
You gotta see that it's gotten better.
1, 2, 3, 4. How's that?
Kyle ruined the main camera. Perfect.
Good.
Perfect. Yes.
Nice. Professional. We did it. You can't get Ian, man. You can't beat him.
Hopefully now this audio level, which we haven't been able to hear.
Yeah, we haven't been able to hear their levels, so hopefully it's Black Mirror.
Welcome. My name is Holly, and I'm the UK Head of Communication here at CD Projekt Red. And I will be your host for today as we take a deep dive into Cyberpunk 2077. We're going to be showing you a video with new gameplay and new gameplay mechanics, and afterwards I'll be joined by 3 of our developers, Miles, Philip, and Pavel, as we take a closer look at some of the things you're going to see and hopefully answer some of your questions. On behalf of everybody at CD Projekt Red, we're incredibly excited to share this new look at Cyberpunk 2077 with you.
Good. Crank it.
Huber will get louder.
Yeah, while your ear's bleeding, Chad.
Yeah.
You all right?
Let's do this.
Well, this is from the end of the demo.
It's the end of the demo. Are they going to show past this part?
I'm wondering if this is just like kind of a primer before they actually get into it.
Yeah, so in the demo we saw, this is how it ended. You go into like the Matrix.
And they're using a female voice. We saw it with figures in the male.
Oh, not on mine. It was a woman.
Oh yeah? So they must have just been swapping stuff around even when we saw it.
They swapped between male and female a bunch when I was watching. Oh yeah, they're just being tricksy with it, chat. Jumping around. This is what happens after.
Yeah,
that,
this
though,
is
so.
this is so far sequential.
Digital world, yeah. We'll walk right through that.
Where are we?
Our BBS, Data Fortress.
I love how they like use old terms like BBS and stuff.
What's BBS mean?
Bulletin board software. It's basically what you called forums before forums.
Oh, funny. I suppose that makes sense.
So like when Cyberpunk was originally written, like that would have been the term.
Okay, so yeah, it ended on that wall before. For me.
Yeah, is it too loud?
Welcome to the Cyberpunk 2077 2019 Deep Dive video. In last year's gameplay reveal, we showed you our vision for the world of Cyberpunk 2077, its quests, and visual design. This year, we'd like to give you a peek at some of the playstyles you'll be able to adopt as your character progresses through the story.
Yeah, so this is like a cut
You're
down
about to see
demo
sequences
stuff.
embodying 2 distinct approaches to playing Cyberpunk. We'll show you a strong solo build, that is, a character who focuses on employing blunt force and taking instant action. And a netrunner.
Oh wait, no, I do remember.
A
They had
playstyle taking frequent advantage
Yeah,
of
this-
Solo is the one
tactics,
that like punched through the door.
power,
Yeah.
and battlefield control achieved using malicious software.
I'ma feed your dick to the dogs.
Additionally, you'll learn more about Pacifica, one of the game's districts. 2 gangs, the Animals and the Voodoo Boys. And you'll see glimpses of Johnny Silverhand, the digital construct who haunts our main character, V.
I think this music is one of those things that's a big
A
deal
word
for
of
the game that
caution,
they really like.
given that the video covers
That's
a section
too
of the
bad.
game deep into the main storyline, we have edited the footage to contain as few spoilers as possible. Be
Critters
aware that the
intent.
gameplay as presented does reveal characters and locations you'll see while playing the game's main story arc. So watch at your own
Supposed to be
discretion.
15 minutes.
Dude,
But they put
they
huge-
want you to media blackout,
They put,
basically.
They put huge spoilers in the E3 trailer though. Like it's kind of funny to say how they're gonna edit out spoilers.
I think that that's just a way of saying, like,
In
we're
this
editing
video,
the footage.
you'll
and
experience
making
a
it so
segment
people
of a
get mad
quest
about it.
from the middle of the game. We're currently in Pacifica, one of Night City's 6 unique districts.
No Pacifica well. Nah. You guys aren't exactly great at rolling out the welcome mat for outsiders.
It was designed to be a tourist hotspot within the city. As you can see, this didn't pan out. When uncertainty struck the global economy, investors pulled their funding, leaving most establishments unfinished. It's one of those places where expectations and reality collided, resulting in a heap of disappointment. Ongoing gang wars plague this part of the city. Outsiders don't come here if they don't have to, even by Night City's standards.
Now I'm
It's
seeing a couple
dangerous
of
to
things
those
I'm
unfamiliar
confused
with
a little bit. I might as well.
Taking a casual stroll here would not be a good idea. A fast motorbike or armor-plated car would be the safer option. But places like this have their advantages. If you're in need of rare goods or illegal cyberware, Pacifica's bustling local markets are a good place to start your search. The Grand
Yeah, it's
Imperial
interesting. So they're
Mall
like-
is a whole other story.
They're just
It was one of the
cutting through a
last
lot of stuff
developments
they
in
showed us.
Pacifica to
Yeah.
lose its funding. Until recently it stood vacant, but now a gang called the Animals has moved in for reasons unknown.
they just kind of talked about all
And
this
that's what
stuff
we
while
need
they
to
were
learn
Yeah,
in
while
order
they
to
were
earn
playing.
the trust of the Voodoo Boys, the Animals' rivals.
What the hell? Could fucking tell me what you plan to do first.
You take job. You
So
do
if
what
you
I
let
say.
someone take your jack
So
like
you
that,
jack
they get
me.
like total control of you. That's why the player character was like, "Whoa,
Of
hey,
the
why are
many
you doing
games in
that?"
Cyberpunk 2077, the Voodoo Boys are the most skilled at using the net.
You have now seen the réseau Agüe, our subnet.
Yeah, so
Why?
you could like
What
hack in
for?
and do all kinds of stuff to you.
You are my vessel now. Through Agüe, I see what you see, hear what you hear.
This mysterious gang of highly skilled netrunners has close ties to the local Haitian community.
You are V? We have been waiting.
Haitians settled in Pacifica in the 2060s after natural disasters struck their island and forced them to emigrate en masse. The Voodoo Boys gang formed around this same time, though at a smaller scale. Now the gang effectively rules Pacifica. The Voodoo Boys don't usually
Yeah, that
work
guy
with
was just, like,
outsiders.
shooting into the
Lucky
air
for
for no
us,
reason.
it
We
seems
just
they're
walked
prepared to
by.
make an
Yeah.
exception
Funny.
this time.
Mr. Hand sent me. Said you got merc work needs doing.
Still, to earn their trust, we need to prove our worth. Placide, one of the Voodoo Boys' higher-ups, has offered us a mission. We need to infiltrate the Grand Imperial Mall, currently occupied by the Voodoo Boys' deadly enemy, a gang called the Animals.
2035-07. 3 seconds before, poof, the camionette. We try to learn where the camionette come from.
The Animals are not your normal gang. Their presence in Pacifica is suspicious. They value might above all else and wear melee combat implants to raise their prowess in combat. Their beverage of choice is juice, a potent strength and speed-enhancing concoction.
Juice.
As sought-after bouncers,
Love
they're
juice.
usually dispersed throughout town.
Man, they
As
look- we
skilled
didn't get such a
street-level
close look at
business
them before.
types,
They're
they've
pretty
cornered
gross
the market
from
for
outside.
illegal substances and underground live-or-die prize fights. When they converge in one spot, it's for something big. It's then they appoint the fastest and strongest among them as their ad hoc leader. In this case, it's a woman named Sasquatch.
Said you wanted my best.
Sasquatch.
Awesome.
No. As far as I
Can you
remember, you
recruit
said no full-frame buffaloes on steroids. Afraid that's the cost of doing biz.
This is the tech Placide was talking about. It seems non-standard for the animals. And this is where we come in. Getting to the van won't be easy, but we're more than qualified for the job, which we can complete in one of many ways.
We didn't see those clips.
The character creation in Cyberpunk 2077 is the kind you'd expect from a full-fledged RPG. You start by choosing your past, important because this unlocks special options at important story junctures. You also fully customize your character using a deep customization system that spans not only your look and style, but also your abilities. Cyberpunk 2077 does not feature fixed classes. Instead, it has a fluid class system that allows players to mix and match a wide range of abilities to suit their playstyle. You can create a strong solo character, a skilled netrunner, or any other hybrid class you can imagine.
Blades only.
Oh yeah,
Blades.
What do they call that thing? The wire?
Let's see how a solo play style in Cyberpunk 2077 might work.
It's so weird how they keep calling it solo.
Solos prefer a direct approach.
Strong, well, I think strong solo is.
Well, I know what they mean, but it's like weird.
Some havoc. With our enhanced strength, we can strip this turret of its weapon to give the animals a taste of their own medicine. This is how a player investing in solo abilities might live out their Terminator power fantasy. Enhanced strength lets us force open doors. Or grab enemies to use as human shields. We also gain access to powerful melee combat cyberware. So even someone as fast and strong as Sasquatch, the leader of this group of animals, is not impossible to beat for a solo. But Sasquatch has a different game plan. She's out to jack in and hack us. Let's see how this plays out.
This didn't happen.
I don't remember.
What's going on?
Join us, Sasquatch.
Oh wait, maybe it did.
Oh yeah, I remember. I do remember this. Yeah.
That's my main weapon.
They might have like changed like how some of the stuff looks.
Games like this, I play like a Blade Runner.
Oh yeah.
It's our choice if we want to finish her off or spare her. Your Cyberpunk, your rules.
Whoa!
If you'd rather sneak around, hide, and strike from the shadows, no problem.
I'm Batman.
Just develop your net running skills to get around obstacles or hack into enemy tech to have it do the dirty work for you.
Yeah, this here, man.
You can have no mods.
Oh.
Net running abilities mean hacking skills that let us use our cyber deck to breach access points.
Will the hacking
For this, we fill the buffer of our cyber deck with a string of instructions represented by these letters and numbers.
I love them.
Matching the instructions
as long as the rewards are good, I'm never
grants us control of devices connected to this network. The more instructions we match, the more control we gain over elements in the network.
What?
We can hack our way through in numerous ways. A quick hack may grant us control of the security camera.
That's what I was saying. There's probably some shortcut.
Another one should let us tweak the difficulty of the training bot to create a distraction.
This part's crazy.
With our nanowire, we can even hack this guy's implants.
Nanowire.
There it is. Distance hack.
Yeah, distance hack?
That's a late game skill, dude.
Almost everything is connected to a local network. And that means it can be hacked.
I bet they'll have a HUD toggle.
The soda thing is blocking the...
Oh, sure.
Which brings us back to cyberspace. You don't get to do anything in the net unnoticed. There's always someone watching. It could be corpos, or even worse, it could be Netwatch. And that is exactly the case here.
Who is they?
Netwatch.
They're always out to fuck us.
Netwatch and the Voodoo Boys are like fire and ice. The first of these wants to maintain the old order and protect people from AI anarchy originating from beyond the Black Wall. The Voodoo Boys want to establish contact with the free AIs. They believe this will enable their boundless expansion on the net and grant them the upper hand over Netwatch. Netwatch sees this as the end of the world.
This is actually really interesting the way that they're bouncing around because it's focusing on topics
How
and
you
lore
deal with the Netwatch
rather
agent
than
is entirely
showing you
up
the
to
whole
you.
mission like we saw.
Yeah.
So
Do we
that when
side
you
with
play
the
it, it's not
gang?
like, well,
Choosing to be on Netwatch's bad side is
I know
we
not
just
exactly
saw
what's
this
around this corner.
linearly in an
trust the
hour-long
Voodoo
thing.
Boys.
You set me up.
As you can see, we have many possible options, but in each case, we take a risk.
Think I'll just stick to my plan.
Jack in.
Also, there was a part they cut out where the... Oh, never mind. That'd be kind of a spoiler.
I think that's about to happen.
They, like, cut a part out.
That didn't work out well.
It just had to do with the...
In the world of Cyberpunk, few things go as planned.
Kenny?
And that was just a glimpse of how complex the branching storyline in Cyberpunk 2077 can get. Every decision you make will have
like
consequences. Your choices will shape how the world reacts to you and
Probably
affect your
good.
relationships with those around you. One of those relationships is special. Ever heard of Johnny Silverhand, a rebel rocker boy who will be your companion throughout your adventure in Night City?
Come on, really think they give a rat's dick how you look?
Like everyone in Cyberpunk 2077, he has his own agenda. You'll decide if he'll be your ally or your enemy. And that chip in
Who
your
would
head,
make him your enemy?
the one thanks to which Johnny lives inside your mind. Well, that's a story for another time.
Dude, if you can romance Keanu, that'd be so funny.
It's in your mind.
So now
So how long was that?
Welcome back. Now, following
That
the
was
deep
15
dive,
minutes.
there is an awful lot to talk about. So I found three of the very best.
Give us the
Oh, you're so happy. But I think just in case people aren't super familiar with Cyberpunk 2077, why don't you introduce yourself one by one so everybody knows who they're listening to?
Hey, I'm Miles. I'm one of the level designers at CD Projekt Red.
Hello, I'm Pavel, and I'm a lead of the quest team.
Miles, the guy
and
that
it's a
Ben
great
talked
pleasure
to?
to be talking to you.
I'm not sure.
So I'm Philip, and I'm one of their quest designers, so I work really closely with Pavel over here.
Oh, thank you guys for being my my
Are we really
participants
talking
in this
about- and I
video.
hate this other-
Let's get started because the last demo we saw took place in Watson. This time we're in Pacifica.
Was it
They're
Miles
very different, and that's super important for Night City that it feels different. So what do you need to consider as a level designer when you're building a place like this?
All right, we are diving right into it.
Let's go. People want to know answers.
Okay, I'm going. So, from a level design point of view, for us, it's really important to create these districts, the 6 ones that we have in Night City, to be as different as possible without making it unbelievable, right? And we sort of orient ourselves around sort of how we approached, let's say, Skellige and Novigrad, No Man's Land in The Witcher 3.
Skellige confirmed.
Very noticeable difference.
Novigrad is more interesting to me because that place is crazy.
Skellige,
density in Novigrad.
We want
Skellige.
variety in the game. Right? It would be kind of boring just to have a lot of the same throughout the entire city. We have one cityscape, so we need to create this kind of variety, and that's actually a really fun creative process as well. And secondly, we need it as a navigational tool. That means that when you as a player move around the city,
We can talk about this, but actually,
you should know where you are
this
simply by
demo
looking around. And
kinda
thankfully, there's a lot of
underwhelmed me at E3 a little
lore
bit.
that we can
Like, I was
sort
excited
of
when we were talking
dissect
about it
and make
first,
our
the more I
own. That
thought about
helps
it, I
us
was
around,
kinda
but
like,
we also add our own.
I mean, it's
twists,
just like a lot of the
to
high
whole
level
thing,
concepts.
right?
It's
So
like,
in terms of Pacifica,
Well, this is
it's
what
hard to
we
like
know
show
it's
that in any amount of
pretty-
time.
It like
pretty
this
fucked up place,
demo
if
from
I
the
can
E3,
say so.
like
And
took it from like the realms of insane
what I mean with that is
down
that
to reality again.
It's pretty noticeable that it's
I mean, it still looks
almost
amazing,
post-apocalyptic, right?
It's
The district has a
video
rich
game,
history that caused it to basically fall into disarray after it was initially meant to become the city's crown jewel of tourism.
Well, they didn't show it, but
clearly
you go inside that church club thing, and there were so many people
out that
in there.
way. And now you'll actually see things like burning cars on the streets, right? And it's very deserted. So much unlike Watson that we showed last year, where the streets are bustling with people, here there's way less. Because it's simply a very dangerous place that you don't want to really go if you don't have to. And again, that's one of these things that once you enter the district from the rest of Night City, you'll actually notice that, right? And of course, all the destruction going on and all of the...
If they were around the same as Control,
suffering,
I think it'd be okay.
pain,
Our favourite
and
things.
violence, as it were.
Yeah, Control, nothing ever
So what
felt
kind of things are exclusive to Pacifica? Because you don't want people to just come for the quest and then leave and that's it. You want people to keep coming back to this district. So what can people find there?
Motorcycle statue.
I mean,
he like rammed a guy with a motorcycle.
This is what I meant when I said like it's a very fun process to think of these kind of things, because these sort of characteristics that we give the district directly sort of birth the things that you can find there, right? And amongst the destruction, you'll still find people living there, right? Pacifica is inhabited by a large Haitian community, and each district sort of has a kind of dominant gang who has taken over there. In the case of Pacifica, that would be the Voodoo Boys. And unlike the Maelstromers that we saw last year, the Voodoo Boys are actually deeply ingrained within the community that lives there. And they actually, they're not your typical sort of street gang in the sense that they don't really bring a lot of gunpowder to fight themselves, but they actually specialize in cyberspace. They're obsessed with the mysteries of cyberspace. They've sort of almost made it their own religion, if you will. And
they seem pretty sketch, actually. Like
that. Yeah, they are.
Placide is not nice.
In Night City, and
Uneasy
it's a very
Alliance.
cool gang that we, of course, our main protagonist will interact with in several ways. How? You will have to find out. And I mean, that's just one of many, many different ways you'll really experience Pacifica. As I said, all of these things together, the culture, the visuals, the architecture, and
I hope this
the history,
is live,
really.
and I hope there's a guy with like 4 synths, just like
have-
live playing
will be
these
very
drones
distinct to
off to the
district.
side.
At the same time, we're of course trying really hard to not make it feel disconnected, right? There's always a link. It should always be believable. That's one of the sort of core pillars that we build
It's
everything
Keanu.
on. But this will make it
Some of them
for a
like,
very
"Alright."
unique experience when you delve in adventure in this district compared to others.
And when looking at the stories that we'll be telling in this exact district, we always make sure that it always fits
I
to
think
the
they're just
environment,
gonna be
to
talking
what we
now
want
and
to build.
show
So
what
the
they've already
street
shown.
stories that you will
They're
find,
not
their
gonna
side quests,
show
in the
new
main
stuff.
quest that is actually placed there, it always tells the story of the community, of the people, of the characters that are living there. And the Haitian community, right, they arrived actually in Night City because of the environmental changes that were happening in the world. Haiti is actually completely flooded, and they have left it. They arrived to Night City to build the district that Miles just talked about, and they were left out at the moment when the corporations withdrawn all the funding from the Pacifica. They were left there and they built their own community there, and they gave the seeds. They become the seeds for all the stories that we're telling there. So as a player, when you're like investing, meeting all those characters and talking to them, you actually find out and learn more about them, you know, through the quests.
Perfect, but let's talk about the mall we just saw in the deep dive video, because
How do you do that with your hair?
that's not linear.
No.
So how do you design a non-linear level? You've got the building, you're thinking, right, well, the person who's playing on their game, they might have a more techie style of playthrough, but this person might want to go in all guns blazing. How do you design levels for
It depends
all
on how
these
long this is.
different
We'll probably
play
talk
styles?
a little
Anything's
after
possible.
they're done.
Yeah, we
If they go on
do
for like
give
an
the
hour,
player
yeah,
a
we
lot
were
of
just
different
turn 'em on.
tools to use as
But-
he goes through a level, and that makes designing these things quite complex, I will say. But you know, just to sort of understand our mentality, I can actually, I'll attempt, and maybe you'll help me out with this one, to go back in our development. well, sometime. And to really sort of, we came up with this example to sort of establish this kind of mentality that we wanted to have when we approached our level designs and the way we do our encounters, right? And the example was rather simple. Yeah. The goal was for a player to go from one room to another, but the main way to go from that one room to another would be sort of like a door. And be it through like a scanner or a device, it doesn't really matter for the example actually. Going through this door would ultimately result in the player losing his weapons, but the task was to actually kill a person on the other side of that door, right? Now, we use this sort of example to sit down and think, okay, how will we do this in all these kind of different play styles, right? So perhaps, one way would be to, convince a guard that would be stationed next to the door, just let you through, right? Through sort of like a social kind of path, or you could take the guy out, take, I don't know, like a pass that would enable you to go through the door without actually letting go of your gun. Maybe if you are invested as a melee character, it actually doesn't really matter to you. You just walk through the door and then punch the guy on the other side into like a pile of blood. Or maybe as a kind of hacker type of character, you try to find a way to breach the network, to disable the device, right, the scanner that would prevent your weapons from usage, allowing you to move through and then use your guns on whatever your target is. Maybe as a kind of fast solo kind of character, you'd be able to jump out of the window onto a windowsill, double jump to the, like a balcony and then enter through the window there. And the list goes on and on with examples that we try to come up for this kind of door. And it's sort of, again, it's just to showcase how we sort of think about these levels, right? As putting in a problem that the player has to solve, and we give him a lot of different tools and possibilities
it's just like open world
to solve this issue or bypass it in their own way. And that is how we're hoping to really create an experience for the player that they feel inherently is their own, right? They came up with a solution given the systems that we gave them. And they really get to feel like the badass Cyberpunk V that we want them to feel like.
Yes, it's actually also a lot of fun to work on this from a story perspective, because, as an example on the Wild Hunt, we were already working with very non-linear stories, but now we also have this non-linear gameplay approach, and for us it was always really important to have these choices.
Because Endgame is now the new
Origins. We did them in the story.
Everything's Endgame
should matter somehow.
Just
but
one
now
thing
we can also
no, there was something else.
All of these different choices.
Dead Rising Endgame.
So of course there should also sometimes be some consequences, and not just on the gameplay side how you solve it, but of course the story should react to it. Do I just run into this room and kill a few guys, or do I choose a super different approach? Sometimes this can now open up a completely new way to go through a quest. So, it actually, I think it added to this whole layer of non-linearity. It added quite a few, let's say, more things we have to do. But the thing is, it is a challenge for us, but it's actually a really fun challenge. It's actually really cool to come up with all these ideas. And the thing is also, our quests are iterated upon a lot. So as an example, quest designers, of course, we play them ourselves.
Yeah, I think
Pavel as our lead plays them again. Directors play them, and also, most importantly, QA plays our quests a lot. And our QA team has really good ideas. So, they always think, okay, what do I think right now? What would I want to do in this situation? And then we often communicate, and this is how some of the best ideas are actually created. Just through going through these missions over and over again, and always finding some new ways to approach them and some new ways to, find interesting consequences of what you happen
They just sit you down there like, find weird ways to do this.
I think sort of ties up with a whole philosophy of a game, which is the freedom. And we have a freedom on the story layer. And
you went fall flat, that's exactly what I was doing. Like, all right, let me try to go up the obviously wrong
direction.
But it
ties up with the gameplay very well, with like the way how the levels are constructed and the branching gameplay is explained, because the player has freedom playing the game. You build your character the way you want, and you play the way you want. And you want the player to feel this choice, what he's doing, depending of how skills he's assigning, what weapons he or she is picking, and all that, and it all comes together as like fulfilling this ultimate like cyberpunk fantasy.
Is definitely one of them. I love.
So in the demo, we obviously saw the bike. There was a little mention of the heavy armor car. But can you tell us a little bit more about?
Well, in this demo, like that helicopter just shooting into a building in the distance.
I can tell you a little bit about
it happen and it flew off.
There's of course many different kinds of vehicles because we want to create a real open city, a city that makes sense in the year 2077. So there will be all kinds of vehicles, and of course there's also
there's got to be somebody
very
thinking of
different. So we
the
also have
upgrade
different
path on
art
this.
styles that correspond with the
you buy this and like
parts
6
of
months later it's out
society.
on
So we
next
have an art style called entropy. So as an example, you might see vehicles that are just very
$10
useful.
or $20.
They're made to just bring a person from A to B, or they're made to do a job. And of course, but the player can choose to have them as well.
I bought a new
especially,
video card for control.
I mean, I don't even know about double dipping. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of people that won't be finished
there's also,
with this game yet.
super
like just want to play it on the new console.
high-end
and finish it
vehicles
all.
on the other side of the coin. So
Do we
of
have a
course,
date
you as a
for
player are only limited by what you can afford.
That's like real
End of
life.
2020. I think.
Yeah, life is like
That's
Cyberpunk.
what we strive for.
They showed gameplay at the beginning.
But yeah, we
15
try
minutes.
to thrive for variety. So we also looked like what
Now
are the
they're
kinds of
showing
vehicles
talking.
players would want to have in a Cyberpunk game. So we don't just have cars. We of course also have bikes like our very own Yaiba Kusanagi here, one of my favorites. It's a very, very cool bike. And there's
Yeah,
some,
cool
let's
car.
say, surprise vehicles that are still to be seen in Cyberpunk, and I don't want to spoil here.
So good.
But I would say something very special that's also dear to my heart.
I like that you can go through too.
Now I'm really intrigued.
But of course also, let's say, the super highest echelon of people in Night City, they also have access to AVs, so flying cars, which is something that you as a player, you're not part of that world, but through specific story moments, you might get to, ride in them sometimes.
But
So,
the guy that
we want to
Ben
give you a few
interviewed
different
said he was going to try to
experiences.
play corporate,
But,
no
yeah,
modifications.
You can also, of course, you have your
for as long
garage,
as possible.
or your apartment,
And I was
so
just
you
like,
can also
what?
have your own vehicle that you store, that you can call to yourself. So you can call your vehicle
endings,
roach if you want to. It's all up to you.
Like if you
but
could reward
it will be your
me
very
for
own.
doing
I wonder
that,
how many
and
cars
that is
going to be called
in your
Roach now that
path,
you've
like,
mentioned
then
it. So Night City is
that's
massive,
like-
and that's like a point we're really trying to make. It's a huge,
crazy.
huge city, and you kind of want people to explore it by foot, right? You could just walk like from point A to point B if that's what you want, or drive.
You could, but probably you would get pretty tired because it's a pretty big place, so you will have to walk a lot. So the thing is, we do not have loading screens while exploring the city. It's a completely seamless place. You can go, wherever you want. And of course, Night City is a very dense
It's pretty cool they're still
place,
saying
so
that a
there's
year
lots
later.
to see on your way.
Yeah.
But the thing is also,
They weren't sure
as
the
with
first
all
time they
things,
said
you want to
it.
give players a
remember,
choice.
They're like,
So of course there's the option to do
load
that.
times.
But the thing is actually the way we're designing the city, we actually kind of feel like even when we're playing it ourselves, that fast travel is often just. When I play the game, I don't want to fast travel. I want to explore the city because we actually tried to give you so many interesting things.
Yeah.
So many places that tell a story that look interesting, where you have something to do, where you can interact with things that just something new for you at every
And
corner.
they'll
So
do something. to
I
hide
personally
those, I'm
don't
sure.
fast travel a lot.
Doors
I
or-
just drive my bike and I put on some nice music and I have a good time. But of course, it's possible. And the thing is also, we actually have proper city planners working here that actually are planning out Night City and
What? That's funny.
how the traffic would work in that city and how it would actually make the most sense, how a city like
Dawn,
that would
dude.
actually grow
That's like Dawn's,
organically,
like, dream.
and how it would flow, how the traffic would flow through there. So it's actually really interesting to
elevators
also
for
just
sure.
have that part of game development now.
That's
as
my
part
favorite
of,
detail that we
Cyberpunk
learned of this
2077,
whole
because this will
thing.
be very
City
important
planners.
for how people actually get to explore it themselves.
To make the city feel alive.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so in The Witcher, everybody who's played The Witcher
Yeah, I think
knows those
that kind of
question
stuff is
marks
probably
on the
why,
map, those points of interest. You
I wanna
dreamt
hear
about
this,
them
yeah.
when you were at work.
Yes.
You just thought about
I was
them.
just talking
you
about
can't
this.
walk past
Great.
them.
Those damn
So
question marks,
what would we
blood.
be sort of looking at for Cyberpunk? What are those things that are going to be all-consuming us, so we are probably not paying attention to the main story? We're going to be like, I've got to go do that first, and I can't go and do this until I've done that one over there. What will we be finding?
So in Night City, you actually really want to tie it into the world. So as an example, most districts have a so-called fixer. Like you might know from our gameplay demo from a year ago, there's Dexter Deshawn. And people like this, they can give you jobs that also fit the specific district you're in. So when you enter a district, then you're kind of known as a mercenary who's doing certain things for money. Fixers might contact you and they have some jobs for you. And then these jobs, you know, as an example, they can be street stories. And they show up on your map and you get an icon so you know, okay, this is this kind of street story. And we always want to put some interesting story to them, because after Wild Hunt, we actually founded a completely new team, the open world team, which is actually creating some amazing content to actually fill this world with things that are meaningful. So, you know, we actually want to make this that you can do many also smaller things around the city, but they're actually all cool and unique in their own way. And one cool thing is also, of course, they appear on your map, but the map in the game is actually properly immersive. It's that really, really cool looking point cloud version of Night City. And you can see the tasks from your fixer there. But the cool thing is actually, because you know, you're a character in Cyberpunk, you're V, and you actually have this information. So it's not just the player seeing them, it's actually your character seeing them as well, because it's all part of the world. So we want to give you this full immersion.
Yeah, it's actually really cool for us that with the street stories and all the other content, we're essentially sort of giving him like almost our Witcher 3 side quest treatment, in the sense that even simple tasks can be fun and exciting if we pack them up in a cool story and root them within the world, right? We can use these street stories to expand further on how life in Night City and the world of Cyberpunk in general works. And sometimes this might even be a better staging ground than the main story itself, right? Where just like, hey, let's see how everyday life works in this kind of aspect, from this perspective, in this scenario. And actually that's, again, like for us, that's a lot of
Damn it!
fun. And it's a very exciting
Yeah, I don't
process.
even know if
hope
that's
that,
on our end.
When players play it at the end, that they will actually find that it sort of enriches their experience, because they always kind of have this impression like, hey, wow, no matter where I go, things are actually worked out, right? It's never just a simple sort of task of, hey, do things, like, but there's always a reason, there's always an understanding of why you're doing things.
Context.
And even in those few scenarios where it might seem a bit more, you know, oblivious, you'll usually find that, you know, there's more to it.
Darn it!
Yeah, and one interesting thing about those street stories is also that, you know, our main story is, of course, your own personal journey through Night City, but the street stories are actually, because, you know, you play a mercenary who's trying to carve their way through the city. This is actually your job. So this is actually the role you now inhabit in this city. So actually you're part of that system through these street stories and through working with fixers. So it's actually this whole different way of playing, you know, the game and feeling immersed in the city.
Can't wait to lose my life to them. So in the deep dive, we can see that the character has 3 sort of origins that we can pick. I mean, what are they and how do they actually affect the gameplay?
Yes. Oh, okay.
You're like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, okay. I'll go into my 50-minute answer. Okay, so we actually call them life paths. Those are the origin stories that player can pick, and it's actually 3 of them. So you can be a street kid.
No, I mean the new internet's going to require them to actually like run a new line
each
to
of
us
them
and
actually defines the beginning of the story for the player. So you start in a completely different way.
I don't remember when we mentioned it, but they were asking about it.
You are slowly introduced into that
I've been on the horn with like industrial
in a completely different place in life, you're in a different place in Night City, and your story slowly, you know, you get involved into that whole thing with Chip and Johnny Silverhand, and eventually, you know,
like
you
90 days,
but you actually start off being a completely different person. Now, what is important with that is we actually take that through the whole game, and you as a player, you can actually associate yourself with like nomads, you can associate yourself with corporate people, or you can be a part of a street.
90 days on the outside.
And it's really up to you, you know, what path you want to pick through the main story, and we did our best in the quest team to like support all those like 3, I would say, main ways to go through the story. And of course player can like mix and match anytime, you know, any way he really wants or she really wants, but it's something that we take from the very beginning till the very end. And what's important there is when you're in the scenes with the characters, so when you're discussing things, you can actually use those things. So if you're a corpo and you know how the corporations work, you know what are their normal methods, you know what's the deal with them, you actually can use this knowledge and sometimes get something more. You can actually unlock side branches in the dialogues, and you can unlock side branches in the whole quest sometimes. And this is a bit exciting, I would say. It's something like the way how we to make sure that the player can role play their character, you know, to become that person. And in the demo that we have shown in the recording, you can see, you know, this moment when you choose, you know, that character that you are becoming later. And the characters that you are meeting in the main story, they are also representing those different groups, you know. So in the first demo a year ago, we have shown Meredith Stout, you know, a person, you know, she is a high-class corporate woman from Militech. She has a lot of power, also a lot of responsibility, and you are on her way. And you can see, you know, how that interaction looks like. So if when you're from corporation, maybe there's something you can do a bit more with her, you know, and that goes also for others, you know, for nomads and for street kids.
Part of
one of the nice things is actually also that, you know, you're not bound
projected on
stick,
top of
let's
stuff.
say, with the corporates or with the streets. So as an example, I can give an example. I started as a street kid the game, and I know I have my knowledge, but then I play through the story and I notice like, oh, I kind of like these corporate characters. I like that life. So, you know, I can just, you know, betray the streets and snuggle up with the corporates. But, you know, this is kind of the role-playing freedom we want to give. But, you know, as always, this can also have consequences for you.
So anyone who's played the original tabletop version of Cyberpunk is used to the idea of assigning
or at least like a
to
slice,
create a character.
you know, of,
now,
of
in the
just
deep dive
straight
video
gameplay.
we
I
just
think that's
saw,
probably
we've got a little glimpse of
what
that
people are
screen. You could
disappointed
see the points and the different things. So help me understand how that works and how you gain those points.
So as a player, you build your character at the beginning, assigning those attribute points, and they define like the core characteristics of your character.
Blades and revolvers.
So how much body strength you have, or how much reflexes you have, or how cool you are. You know, that's one of the interesting stats that we have, right? But then, as you have those attributes, you also have skills. The skills define a bit more interesting proficiencies for you as a player, what you can do. And for instance, one of the skills is assassination or the cold blood. Maybe I'll stick to the cold blood to explain a bit more. So this is a skill that allows the player to survive in a really tough situation. So at the moment, you know, you get a lot of damage, then the cold blood skill kicks in thanks to your cool stat. It kicks in and gives you a boost in damage, and then as a player you can, you know, survive and so on. But then, you know, using that skill, so you sort of like use by learning, like using that skill, you can actually get better, pump up levels there, and you can get different perks. Now what's interesting there, you can actually give completely different perks to the skill that you have. And here I think I could use the example of the athletics attribute. So the athletics is the way for us to move dead bodies. So as a player, you can basically pick up the dead body that you have just basically killed.
47 style.
Pick it up and like stuff it into the fridge or in a trash bin.
I do wish they were just
now,
showing
as a
that
player,
skill tree while
you
he's
normally
talking.
slow down when
I wish
you're
they were showing
moving
Hitman
around
footage
with
right
the
now of
bodies.
Hitman
But
dumping
you
a body in.
Added special perks to
And
your
everyone's like, why?
athletic skill, you can now run with the dead body. So because you are more athletic, you can do that. And those are like 3 levels of complexity in our character, in building the character we have. You have the attributes, you have the skills, and then you assign perks to it. And those 3 come together to allow you to create your own amazing character that you want to play at.
A lot of people think this is maybe how cool you look and it's all about the jacket you're wearing, but the cool stat is not style-based, is it?
Well, you know, this is Cyberpunk, so being cool is of course very important. But the actual cool stat really means how cool you are under pressure, how much you have control over your body. So, you know, are there people shooting at me and I'm holding my gun like that? Probably not very cool. So this is, you know, this is the kind of thing that cool actually controls. But of course, you know, if you want to play a character that's actually cool, you have your choices, right? You can wear your nice leather jacket. And of course, you know, like in real life, also depends on how you talk to people. And that's of course also the choice of you as a player.
He just might freak out under gunfire.
Yeah.
Like, cool on the surface, but not so much when push comes to shove.
Happens sometimes.
So in the deep dive, we saw a quick clip of the inventory screen. It looks like a proper old school RPG screen, you know, with the little blocks of the system. And I know the community wants to hear more about what they can expect. So tell us more, Miles.
Oh, I will. Now, of course, like how I always say is, you know, in Cyberpunk, the inventory screen is, of course, where we manage our items, right? But most importantly, in Cyberpunk, it's where we also manage our style. And just as Philip just touched on, you know, like it's really important for us to be able, for you to be able to realize your character, and that, of course, comes in the character creation, but also the way you dress your character, right? We're pretty much aware that there's sort of this, in most RPGs, there's this common sort of disconnect between the stats on an item and the looks. While we can go into details here, let's just say we're aware of this sort of, you know, conflict, I guess, of interest sometimes. So we're looking into how you would be able to make your character still look cool despite having the best stats of an item, right? Just
in WoW, you can just
goes to show that that is really important to us. And of course, you know, the whole role-playing aspect goes even further because we'll have some customization options not only for the way you look like, but also
you go to a
guns,
tailor,
right?
It's the worst getting a better piece of gear that looks like trash.
That looks worse.
It's the worst.
I've definitely like made that choice where I'm like, nah.
Well, especially like the early goings of The Witcher.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff that would have better stats would just be like this big, puffy, stupid looking.
And all of these little things brought together, again, they've sort of allow you to fulfill your sort of what do you call it?
Although if you went through those
character
armor
fantasy,
quests, those sets all over, it's really great.
Cat set.
In the inventory, yes, we're changing our clothes, we want to look super cool, but what about cyberware? Can we do anything with cyberware from the inventory screen?
Oh, yes. So imagine inventory screen, right? So if you see the player there, you have a slot. So normally in, like, let's say fantasy game, you would equip a armor, right? Or you would equip, I don't know, a leg piece or something. Like right now here, you can actually replace that with a cyberware, right? So you can get your legs replaced to your cyber legs, right? And those can give you different skills, like let's say double jump. But then as a player, you can upgrade actually those and let's say enhance them in a way that they give you something special to it. So for instance, you can actually make them jump in a way that they do not make sound, and they become like a really stealth tool. So because of that, you can traverse in a quiet way through the locations. So this is how you actually upgrade your character. You just go over your body and replace whatever you do.
To become a Terminator.
And in the lore, there are Reaper dogs that help you out with that when you have to install those core pieces of cyberware, like for instance the Raven control system that allows you to control the flathead. But there are also other pieces that you can do on your own. And on top of that, as a player, you can also find pieces, small pieces called shards. And those, if you slot into your slot, you can actually, they give you a power of a given cyberware, so you can try it out. So as a player, you can experiment a bit, you know, and see how it would be if I would have installed, you know, some special piece of cyberware in my body. And that allows the player to, you know, to see stuff, to figure it out, to build their character the way they want.
Okay, so we know we can equip some of our cybernetic enhancements in the inventory, but like, where do we get them?
Perks,
like, how do we get more enhancements?
So there's actually multiple ways of going about that, right? The most obvious one is going to a so-called Ripper dock and getting new cyberware built in you, or enhancing the cyberware that you have. Some of it you will actually get through your, as you adventure.
That scene where they pop your eye out.
Rupert Giles.
Things like the Kuroshi Eye implant that we have, right? It's almost mandated on top of you because it's sort of like a core gameplay mechanic to be able to scan things and get additional information on certain circumstances. And
the IMOD.
of course, then we also have something we call the street cred system, right? Yeah. So as you progress throughout the game, you will also unlock more street cred through your actions, and that will enable you to unlock more content in the game. That means, you know, more vendors will open up to you, more services will open up. People will have heard of you and are more willing to work with you. So there's actually multiple ways this affects your experience, and one of them being, you know, like the cyberware.
It's a nod to
Shenmue
3.
What is?
Cool. So like Netrunner was featured pretty heavily in the deep dive, but can you give us a little bit more insight into some of the combat skills or abilities that come with the idea of building a Netrunner class?
Yeah, so I think using net running skills gives you lots of, let's say,
It
opportunities
would be such a great game.
In how you
That'd be an amazing
game.
game.
Cartoon Deus Ex.
We have access points, and access
or I was
points
going to say, like, that'd be a good reward for like beating the game some way or something. Here's the Inspector Gadget.
Netrunner is pretty useful because you can
Penny
hack that
comes out
access
just
point.
like Inspector.
And if you successfully do that, you can now use quick hacks. You can actually, from a distance, take over different devices, like as an example, a camera, You can do many different things with it. Look through the camera and have a completely different view, or just turn it off if it's in your way. And of course, you can take over a turret and make it fight for you, or you can do many different things. We also try to come up with nice custom things. So depending on where you are, let's say if you're in a gym where there's some nice boxing robot, of course, maybe you can do some fun things with that. So I think as a netrunner, it's always lots of fun to use different things. And as an example, if I would use lots of netrunning skills, it's also really useful to use lots of cool skills that make me really good at stealth, so I'm really under control. So netrunner can be really good at also using distractions.
It feels like there's a type
vending
of currency
machine,
being
just
used
make it
for
spit out some
hacking.
drinks, and then of course
some
people might look after that.
And also when they open the door, it said 8 out of 4.
Just a stealth character. There's also cool, aggressive netrunning.
Because
We always want to give you the choice of how to play. So we have your nanowire cyberware, which is really good at hacking enemies from a distance, and then actually taking over their cyberware. So most people in the world have cyberware in their body, so it's just like access points. Very good times for netrunners. So you can then control that cyberware and also do some nice things, like as an example, hack someone's cyberware in their hand and make them do some things they might not want to have happen to them. But the thing is also the nanowire, of course, it's a wire. It's nano, it's very, sharp, so you can also use it as a weapon or as a whip, and, the netrunner can be very effective at using his skills in combat as well. So it's all just, your choice as a player.
What about, let's say, because this all sounds amazing, but let's say you want to do slightly non-lethal. Because in the deep dive we saw with Sasquatch at the end, there was an option.
Dude, if
do you want to put her out of misery, or do you want to let her live? So
you're not out.
How do people play it like a non-lethal playthrough? Can you build a class to help you do that?
So that's basically a choice you make. We really said, Cyberpunk, it is a very violent world, but you're role-playing your character. You can choose to play the whole game without killing a single person. And of course, we're always saying this should also have an effect on the story. So certain characters, in a quest might ask you, yeah, please do this thing for me, but don't make too much trouble.
Take people out.
And of course, you don't get the game over if you do a thing that the character doesn't want. So, but the story will react to it. And we want to give you that choice. But of course, not only the netrunner is able to do a non-lethal playthrough. Every player, however you want to skill your character, you're able to do it somehow. But of course, it also depends, where you are. Let's say if you're in some rundown ruin that doesn't have lots of netrunning abilities, of course, a netrunner still has ways to do it. But he might not be able to use all of his netrunning skills. But another player who has skilled different ways now has a different experience. But it can happen vice versa. But what we always want to say, you can finish the whole game, you can finish the quests without killing a single person. Sometimes you just have to also, think about it. Because the thing is, Night City isn't a very peaceful place. So you can never play like a full pacifist who was never engaging in any kind of combat.
Fine! Damn you, Spectrum!
Any kind of combat, because, but you can choose to, not kill.
Actually, like to add to that is that we're trying really hard to not actually punish players for the playstyle they chose to do, right? Whether it is that you're playing a lethal or non-lethal,
this seems like a balancing nightmare.
Like a more aggressive versus a more subtle kind of approach. While NPCs might sort of have certain wishes for you how to approach a situation, they will never outright punish you for not, sort of doing their wishes.
Down is usually fine. It's the up.
Because we really want to give players as much freedom as possible, and taking punishing the players for certain actions like that, which is
that's why I'm saying Twitch is not their Cyberpunk
would directly contradict this kind of idea that we're trying to set up in terms of role-playing fantasy.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than like accidentally slipping on the trigger. You're like, I didn't mean to kill him, and then everything changes.
And as an example, you can also see a Sasquatch that we show in our demo. It's a really intense fight, but actually, if you choose, you can subvert that fight. You can maybe just, sneak around her and find a different solution. And then maybe, of course you can get a consequence out of that, because now Sasquatch is still alive. So, the story is already different. So I think this opens up.
Dude, Sasquatch is either going to be my best friend or the main villain.
Not just for the gameplay, but also for us as storytellers.
A bunch of people say it's buckling.
But let's tell us a little bit more about the solo build, because that was another build from in the deep dive. What kind of skills does that give someone then?
It probably is. It probably is.
I think that the most typical like solo fantasies that our players have is to be a strong solo and to be fast solo. So be like
different.
Like I would say so. But you can also build any type of hybrid you want. But this strong one is the person who can, like shove people into the trash
hybrid
bins
always
and so
bums
on,
me
kill
out, dude.
bodies,
If you can
run with them,
balance
but you can
a
also
hybrid build,
like pick up the heavy guns, mounted to the turret
okay
and like
at
use it
I
against
think
the opponents. Like we have shown that in the
right?
recording for a moment. When V is like just like killing everything on her way with this very heavy gun, you of course cannot like take it to your inventory and run around with everything with it everywhere. But this is the only like I would say build that allows you to do that, right? So this is very special. However, if like as a fast solo, you have access to lots of different traversing skills. So as a means of exploration, you can, for instance, do the double jump and access places that you would not have otherwise. Right? You can also, like slide around with your katana or like slide around using nanowire that we have also shown. So you can be built in a completely different way, built based on the stats that you have picked as a person.
Sounds really cool. I'm just going to run in, I think, and just punch everything.
Until
I get level.
some kind of cloak,
Also like real life.
Just drains energy.
This game is so close to real life.
That's how like Deus Ex
incredible.
it
Literally happens every day.
So we know we've talked about Netrunner and Solo, and we've shown both of them in our deep dive.
But it actually made it cool
not
because
just
it was like,
right? Like there are
you'd pop it and then like, all right, I gotta sprint over to that spot. With
other builds. So maybe tell us about Techie.
Yeah, so generally how we approach this kind of stuff is we have sort of thought, we're thinking of three sort of main archetypes of how you can play the game. That would be the Netrunner playstyle, right? The solo playstyle, which as Pavel said, sort of branches into sort of more agile, fast solo, and the more brutish, strong solo character. And then there's the last one, which is the Techie. Again, it's just important for us to say that these are just archetypes that help us think about how players might approach any kind of situation. But of course, you'll be able to create any kind of hybrid and just pick the skills that you like in between. And the Techie, is sort of a more technically affiliated playstyle, right? Whereas the Netrunner is the one that sort of manipulates devices that are active by hacking networks and taking over control. The Techie is actually the one that sort of dabbles with the hardware itself and cables and whatever drives machinery, all that stuff. And to add on top of that, we're actually layering our little buddy called Flathead, and he is what we call a spider bot, a kind of very sophisticated people into bite-sized pieces. So again, as Philip said much earlier, if I remember correctly,
Chat, you see us?
We've been doing this for a bit.
Might have to
there's
refresh.
Actually no playstyle that is sort of meant to be played in a certain way, right? We don't go, okay, the hacker kind of character, he's the stealthy guy, he needs to operate from the shadows, whereas the solo type, he's the one that, just goes out and shoots everyone. No, you can actually still, within these playstyles, choose how you play the kind of character, lethal, non-lethal, stealthy, and non-stealthy.
As far as I can tell, that was straight up an actual internet outage.
We just give you the tools in all playstyles to do whatever you want with it, right? So if you want to be a combat netrunner, if you will, that likes to use gunfire and making people blow themselves up, sure,
I missed
go do
the
that.
April
But
shotgun.
you can
I didn't
also
hear
do
it.
in a stealthy approach. It really lies in the player's hands.
Sounds sick though.
So let's say I've got my 8-barrel
There's
shotgun.
also-
it's
there's
my favorite gun.
construction in
I
the
love
area,
it. What
so
can I
it
do to
could
it? Can I
have some
customize
impact
it?
on
Is
things,
it
who knows?
moddable? Are there any options for really making
They
something
have
special and one of a
the
kind?
CD Projekt has like bird
I think
necklaces.
we can say
They've
that
had
there are
that for a long
like
time.
two
I've seen them
major
before,
ways
yeah.
what you can do, how you can customize your guns. One way is customizing the visuals, and those are different skins and like paint overs, paint jobs
getting,
that
like,
you
a
can have on
direct
your gun
provider
just to make sure
business
that when you're a Cupid that your rifle is pink or purple, if you really want it. But then there's the second way how you can customize it. It's a different sort of attachments that you can have. You can have silencers, you can have like a sniper rifle zoom on the gun. You also can boost up the stats of the given weapon. So in that way, you can basically make it more efficient. So you can make it to look the way you want, and you can make it the shoot the way you want.
I think, Miles, you've mentioned this before.
There's
that
so much
also
customization.
changes
It
the
just don't
animation,
stop.
right?
Yeah.
As it progresses, you can change the way it looks as you reload and things like that.
Yeah, so basically the more you use your guns, who figures, the better you become at shooting them, right? You might start as a complete amateur,
Oblivion style.
like I would be with shooting a gun.
Constant jump.
But,
Level up that
I'm not a very good shot.
athletic stat.
The better you become with it, you know, that actually affects your way of handling a
Sniper
gun.
rifle
So
zoom
you
on an
know,
8-barrel shotgun
like your
with
crosshair might
silencers?
become smaller, indicating that your accuracy
I also
increases
hope they
ever
have
so
a variety of
slightly, and
swords.
that will also sort of influence the way your animation looks. Like your reload speed will be faster and all that time. So you actually really get this sense of progression and your character evolving as you play the
I'm
game.
just ready
and,
for this game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
What is it,
pretty
like 5
special
months
sort
away?
of
No.
experience
6?
if you
No.
combine it with the way you know
April, yeah.
that you can
far
customize
is
the
that?
guns, man,
What
and
month
kind of
is
really
this?
have this feeling
seven,
like,
I
yeah,
think.
this is
7
my
months.
signature gun, right? And
Someone
I'm
in
really
chat,
good
can you
with
say
it.
refresh?
Right, guys,
For
thank
those in
you
chat who
so
don't know
much.
we're
I know
back.
there is one thing we haven't talked about from the demo, and that is a little bit more about the gangs. We spoke about the Voodoo Boys a bit, but we haven't even really spoken about the animals. And while I know you
Animals
guys
hype.
know everything about Cyberpunk, I thought I'd actually
Sasquatch.
throw out to maybe the Godfather himself. So I caught up with Mike Pondsmith at Gamescom to ask him, who are the Voodoo Boys and who are the animals?
Hi, my name is Mike Pondsmith, and I'm the guy who killed your Cyberpunk characters. And today, I'm going to talk to you about two very important things. I'm going to talk to you about animals, and I'm going to talk to you about the Voodoo Boys. So, let's take the Voodoo Boys. When I created them many, many years ago, I was looking at kind of a really interesting idea, which is what we would now call cultural appropriation. What happens when somebody comes in and tries to adopt a culture that they know little or nothing about and does it really badly. But one of the great things about having a few years is that you get a chance to do some redos. And one of the best ones is what we have with the Voodoo Boys now. The Voodoo Boys in 2077 are really Voodoo Boys. They inherited the name, but it was sort of a natural fit. They were coming from Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and they were the real thing. And they managed to take a lot of the elements of their original culture and meld it into the world of 2077 to bring that cyberpunk vibe into a very old
I think
and
he's saying
respected
he just
culture.
like changed like
So they're
what the
a gang,
concept for the
but they're
characters
not
were.
really. They're more of a cultural phenomenon. They're more a way of cultural exploration.
I'm all in
And
with Voodoo Boys, dude. Main
I think it's
characters.
really cool because it shows us a side of the cyberpunk future that we normally wouldn't see. On the other hand, they're the animals.
Animals.
Way, way back in my dark, dank past, I used to lift. Don't anymore, but I used to. And I would see guys like the animals in the gym I went to. Guys who lived to get strong and get really strong and get really strong. The animals are like those guys. They're in it to basically build themselves up and become the tigers of their particular urban jungle. They want to be big, they want to be bad, and they want you to fear them just because they exist. And you know, it's really easy to fear a guy who blots out the sun when he walks by you. The animals are very simple. They have an ethos: get big, lift, get strong, lift. So unlike the Voodoo Boys, who have a culture, the animals have a thing.
I want to be part of
And
no
contrasting that is interesting, because in 2077, you get a chance to see that not every gang is the same as every other gang, and what motivates them depends on the people you meet on the street.
When's the deep dive?
Check it out. This is Mike Pondsmith saying, I'm still here to kill your Cyberpunk character.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into
awesome.
Cyberpunk 2077. Now, don't forget, you can join us on Twitter, Facebook,
You can download the demo
forums,
right
and
now
even join us
on
on Discord to make sure you stay up to date on all of our news.
Try it for yourselves.
Cyberpunk 2077 is launching April 16th, 2020, and is available for pre-order now. On behalf of everybody working on Cyberpunk and here at CD
That
Projekt
went
Red, we thank you for watching,
an hour of
your
talking.
ongoing support,
Yeah, wow.
and we can't wait for you to explore Night City.
There we go.
Maybe a secret? Is there a secret end thing?
Oh, sure.
Nick Fury?
Just gonna hear this clicking for a long time.
Thanos reveal?
Yeah, the flashes, they're like begging for some
begging
other
that one of
scene.
these things turn to like a code.
Did you see the? It's kind of hilarious. So like number one, Dying Light 2, we didn't get to watch it yet, or at least I didn't get to watch it yet. They released their E3 demo this week or last week, I think this week. But then today they sent out a second press release saying, "Oh hey, there's like Easter eggs in the demo." If you didn't see them already.
That's it.
That's it.
Didn't learn too much. I mean, we missed that April shotgun, which is a bummer.
It's literally...
We had an information overload.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's literally less than what we saw, and then they just talked about what we just saw.
Yeah.
Again, so it's like, I mean, to be fair,
they went into a lot of detail on all of.
Yeah. To be fair, this is exactly what they said this was going to be. They said 15 minutes of the E3 gamescom demo, and then we're going to talk.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So.
And I think they're not showing more regions and stuff because they want to, multiple reasons. One, I think they really respect the story and the spoilers and all of that. And two, leading up to the release, I'm sure they want to like space that out.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of different profiles for those different areas and that kind of thing, I'm sure.
And I mean, that's kind of, this was to show the E3 stuff publicly. Like, so we'd already seen it, but like
a lot of this is new to a lot.
It's new to everybody, so it's like, that's super cool.
Yeah.
That was why we were debating reacting to this, because like we knew it was going to be all the stuff that we saw before.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see it again.
Yeah, most of you hadn't seen it.
It's cool to see.
None of us work on the podcast. I can't tell you what the status is. We've been here. I know that Kyle will get it up on Patreon as soon as you can. I think the reason I wish they had shown even 5 minutes of just straight gameplay, but I think that the reason that they trimmed it down and condensed it is because they wanted this gameplay to tell you about a lot of different things, and so they focused on those points rather than just showing, the gameplay raw.
Yeah.
Because, and I think this kind of makes sense, is that like you don't want people to get to that part of the game and just be like, all right, well, this hour is just going to be the thing that I've already seen and know how to do, and I know what's around this corner.
I don't like that when that happens.
But there's so many ways to get through certain sections. Couldn't they just show like one?
But that's what I'm saying, is they showed those points. They showed the ripping of the doors without showing you the hallway of coming through that back wall or whatever. Yeah.
Good call.
I'm glad they didn't. They sort of showed it, but they didn't and I'm not gonna say it, but like they skirted around the 2 or 3 like big story moments that were in there where it's like, oh, this happened. And I'm glad they did that, because like now like I know how to approach these people because I know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
And like one way or the other. But
but I mean,
cool.
As people have said, there's also 7 months to go, so we're probably going to see at least another demo at some point, or they're probably going to have like some full day preview thing where we play a couple of hours and record a certain amount.
I would not be surprised if some Xbox or PlayStation event near the end of the year, next gen consoles. What do you think? Showing some Cyberpunk? Some Scarlet event or something?
Yeah, maybe from Microsoft. If PlayStation's going to do it, they're not leaving a lot of runway for that, for like a PSX or something.
Well, yeah. Well, and it sounds like PlayStation's not doing anything around TGS either. So they're just
so weird.
They're just really dark right now.
You know who is going to be at TGS? Resident Evil.
Yes.
Resident Evil.
Yeah. We are gonna stream whatever that is. I forget what the schedule of that is, but yeah, we're definitely gonna be checking that out.
Oh yeah, man, I'm so pumped on Cyberpunk. It's like one of those things too. Some games are just like Cyberpunk to me shows really well. It really does. Just all the them talking about it, them showing it. But it's one of those things that just when you get in it, I can't wait to just be in the game because they just hype up the immersion. And I think of Deus Ex, and again these living, breathing games when you're just like standing in a place, but like things are happening. Things are happening all around you, like backdoor shady deals going down with corporate people. Like. The plot is moving forward, kind of like you are like guiding it, but it's still like kind of moving on its own. You know what I mean? I just love that.
You know what I'm curious about is if the background you choose changes the way the game starts. Like if
he said
He said it does.
Yep.
Okay, because I was gonna say like if you choose corporate, do you start in like the nice part of town?
Mm-hmm. Probably.
So that's
some
crazy.
Oswald Cobblepot situation.
That'd be crazy.
Like probably super privileged maybe, and then you get like cast out or something.
Yeah, so I mean that's the thing is like String of Pearls narrative, right? Like something has to make it so that the story starts in like the same way, but from a different start point.
Keanu.
I mean, like
Keanu.
You're always gonna get Keanu. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the 7 is playable at TGS too.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
I saw someone ask, the podcast has moved permanently to shooting on Thursday, so it'll always go up for patrons on Friday and public on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the time on the schedule, as Chris was pointing out, that's like our December 31st.
Yeah.
11 p.m. is like, it's going up today.
Today.
But we don't know, we don't have an exact time because it'll just be as soon as it's finished.
Yeah, like how Amazon just says, December 31st. Yeah, so it'll be up soon, hopefully. Yeah, this game, like, it's a weird thing, because kind of like you, like, I'm 100% going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to jumping into it. The last year's thing, with, like, getting that lady out of the tub and all that stuff, like, that was still, like, hype for me, because it still seemed, like, pretend almost.
Yeah.
Seeing this demo brought me way back down to reality.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm not like I was way more hyped for Control than I am for Cyberpunk.
Got it.
Like,
is that just aesthetically or
not really, just because I'm worried that like my expectations were certainly high, and like I'm worried that the reality of Cyberpunk is just that it's going to be a very, very rich and complex experience, but an experience that is still just a CD Projekt Red game. You know what I mean? Like a good game, but nothing like whoa.
Do you like Deus Ex and stuff?
I haven't played any of the Deus Ex games.
Okay.
But I didn't like Witcher 3.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping
gameplay-wise, this is so different.
Yeah.
This is an entirely different thing.
The gameplay looks way different. Hopefully, feels good. That's the thing.
That's the thing. Like we keep bringing up Deus Ex because it looks like playing Deus Ex.
Yeah.
It really does.
Open world Deus Ex instead of like specific, what do you call them? Like hub areas, I guess, in Deus Ex.
Mankind Divided was kind of open world-ish, and then that's actually in a way what was. Like what brought people down is that they felt like they were only in one place because you're just there.
Oh my god! You go back at nighttime, dude. I was so disappointed. I was so upset. I was like, "We're going to the same place again, but it's just night." No, like, because it's so fun in Deus Ex going to new places, and like I love that they've only really shown like 1.5
It's weird that they've
places.
only shown it in the day too.
Yeah,
by and large, right?
Like,
dude, Night City.
Yeah,
like downtown. How crazy is downtown gonna be?
Bonkers. That's what I'm excited to see is like the nice part of town, quote unquote.
They're holding a lot back,
and
I'm still riding that rush.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I think they're talking about like city planners and they're talking about all this stuff about
that was really
when they
fun,
talk about the characters, like the side quest stuff, really fleshing out like the world. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm the most excited about. But it's weird because like you can't really get hyped for that. You can't really like market that in any conceivable way.
It's really hard to hype up a side quest.
Yeah.
Totally. Which was interesting too. They said about the street stories, and she was talking about the question marks in Witcher. He like kind of went into it, basically just that these stories kind of pop up, but it does seem like traditional.
That's
classic
kind of
open world. Go to the question mark and do the quest.
Because that's what I was hoping for. That I think I just realized the thing I was hoping for that I realized is probably not going to happen, and that's why I'm disappointed a little bit. I wanted Breath of the Wild, but with people.
Got it.
Like, I wanted emergent story stuff in the world where I'm like, that guy looks weird. I walk over, and then stuff happens.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted like
that stuff happens.
that kind of stuff. But you know that it's just going to be like, the HUD thing comes up and it's green, so
hey, go talk to that person.
Yeah, and it's like, I kind of would prefer it not to be that way. Maybe there's a HUD setting where you can say just like immersive.
I mean, it kind of depends too, because it's like with the amount of crowds, it's something's got to make somebody stand out.
Oh,
and
absolutely,
I guess.
And I mean, like, maybe what I'm describing is just too lofty a goal currently, but
I am curious, when they're talking about how people react to your background and the things that you've done before, and like, I am really hoping that like these stories branch out in such crazy, kind of like how when we got to the end of The Witcher 3, like, we compared our endings and we're like, what?
Ian, though, I think it's a really fair point and fair to want that out of this game, because this game has been in development for so long. It's coming off of The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And it's, kind of the swan song of this generation. I think it's perfectly fine to have those lofty.
Well, and also like those worries too, because like I refer to the Nakey Jakey video about how Red Dead 2 felt outdated. And that was sort of how he expressed it better than I will, but like that was kind of my feeling too, is like this feels like a game that didn't iterate from a design from 7 years ago. And like I'm a little worried that Cyberpunk is just going to be a reskinned Witcher 3 with different combat.
No. I wouldn't compare it to Witcher 3 really at all.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, that
I mean the way it's skill tree and on its own is just crazy.
Okay.
Cool.
It's based off a whole different set of systems. Yeah. And it also has, again, like with them having Pondsmith, they're talking about.
That was so good.
These factions, it's like there's so much to build off of already.
Yeah.
To just like for them to just expand on all of these different things.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in, even if you're not going completely non-lethal, like, what they're showing, like these consequences that could come up from not killing somebody.
Yes.
You want to recruit Sasquatch, but there's all these other things that
I let her live because I'm trying to recruit her, and then she comes in like 10 hours later and kills my companion or something. I'm like,
she could kill somebody else.
Yeah.
She could back you up on something and like, hold people off from coming in.
I will not give up on you, Sasquatch. I will not give up.
But similarly, whoever told you to take somebody out and you don't.
Yeah.
And they get the retribution, and then they're on your bad side.
Yeah. See, those possibilities, man. That's what that's like the make or break. Like if the game is this, like, oh, did that, do this, what? Oh, you did that. Like, to me, that's a success.
Well, chat balked at my reskinned Witcher 3 statement. I think I need to unpack what I meant. I meant like quest structure and like maps with icons on it. That's what I was referring to. Yeah.
Like gameplay structure.
I realized, gameplay structure.
Like
I realized that was a weird statement, but like that's the thing I'm hopeful for, is that like you let Sasquatch win and that ripples through the whole game.
Yeah.
Like, or live, I mean. Like those kinds of things, like, because no one's really done a game with that amount of insane, like, specific branching.
Totally.
And I mean, this game looks like it could be that game, and certainly they've been working on it for long enough.
Yeah.
So, man.
Like, I want David Cage's games to look like nothing. Choice-wise, Like you were talking about Detroit and the big spider web.
Yeah, man.
Like, I want to see that for Cyberpunk. Like, I hope they release that one day down the line.
Flow
like
charts?
The chart of choices and like how.
Yeah.
I hope they're
crazy, dude.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think it's a good point to wrap it up on.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely an interesting thing. There's a lot of little specific details in there.
Yeah.
Nothing, that's otherwise nothing really that's that different from what we saw at E3 and Gamescom. So
just the Don Casanova city planner.
City planner, biggest takeaway. They hired city planners. Now I hope they hire like. I wonder how many people are on their writing team and how like diverse it is.
Oh yeah.
Because I was wondering about that. I was like, man, the amount of writing in this game has got to be insane.
Yeah, because what was GTA 4 or 5? Like thousands of pages?
Yeah.
Like this has got to be.
The script for this thing is like 6 feet tall. If you printed it out.
Yeah.
Like, certainly. And I really hope they have a whole bunch of different voices in there. Because, like, that's the beauty of a cyberpunk world, right? Is that, like, it's so diverse and so crazy. And, like, everything is such a hodgepodge, mixed together, melting pot kind of a deal that everyone can be whatever they want. And I think it's really important to have that, like, thought through and represented appropriately.
No doubt. Because even Watch Dogs, I talked to a dude and it sounded nothing like him.
Oh.
I was like, what is this? Like, why?
Oh, the voice didn't match the character
model?
Oh,
Yeah. It was
just, like, random.
It was so jarring.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
We'll see. I'm going to walk over here now.
All right, everyone. We'll be back when, Bloodworth?
So Kyle's streaming tonight.
Nice.
His Game Boy game.
Cool.
Big thing, it's Tuesday. We're doing the Man of Medan movie night full playthrough.
Woo!
5 players. So obviously there's more than 5 of us.
Is it 5 controllers? Does everybody?
No, everyone passed the controller. So like when it's your turn, it'll say, "Oh, it's Huber's turn now."
Got it.
So, but I've got some. I'm thinking of other ways to include, because like Brandon's not going to be here the whole time. Don's not going to be here the whole time. Damiani is going to be on the controls for a bit. So, but I'm thinking of ways to like include those. You know, like having like a soul swap kind of thing, where like once everyone's gone like 2 rounds, then like okay, soul swap, pick a card. Who's gonna?
I mean, they've got it. They've got the
take that controller.
They have the good job because they can just sit back and relax with some popcorn and watch us stress out.
Well, it's also going to get really complicated if a character dies.
Oh, you're out. You're out.
But
yeah,
then, like,
I think for sure that person is. If you make a decision or somebody else makes a decision that kills you, then yeah, you're out. Straight up.
What if Elise comes in and kills every character?
Dude, I think it's really easy to kill other people this time around. That's my theory.
I think so.
I've seen
they've
some
alluded to
headlines,
that in their developer diaries.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they're like, I don't want to be anywhere near Bossman. I'm just telling you that right now. I don't want to be anywhere near the guy.
But Kyle, right now Kyle is going to be a soul swap, so that could be the thing. Kyle gets your controller,
Dude,
and then he kills your character.
Nope. You're not touching my character, Kyle. It's not happening.
All right, everybody. We'll see you.